Hi, I'm Tara. Welcome to Les Two Books. You can email me at tara@thelesbianreview.com with any questions or comments, or come join our Facebook group, The Lesbian Review Book Club. So I'm excited because Anna, one of the fabulous co-reviewers at The Lesbian Review, is back again today to talk about fluffy romances with me. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you for having me today. This is actually something I was excited to do.
So I adore fluffy romances, and yes. I know not everybody loves them because they love like the angsty romances that will hurt you when you're reading them.
We'll also have you put them down at certain points because you're like, you're getting to that big angsty part and you're like, I don't want to read this right now. I want to wait. Yeah. That type of thing. Yeah, I totally get that.
You need a break. You need a whatever. So, but the thing is, I also have found, and especially in the last couple of years, that I am really enjoying the romances that are like a warm hug. It's like somebody wrapping you up in a little blanket with a cupcake and a kiss on the forehead, and everything's gonna be okay.
Oh yeah, totally. It's like, I think I mentioned that in one of the books where I'm going to talk about today. It's like, with all that's going on in the world, it's like it's just very depressing right now, and it's like sometimes you just need to have that book where you're just like, you know what, I'm not looking for drama, I'm not looking for a lot of angst in something, a little bit's fine, but not to the point where it just totally deteriorates, into just some weird stupidness and everything. So it's like, yeah, I like those books every now and again. And so I'm happy to have them. So it's like, if I do finish something that's pretty, robust and like it's angst or it's drama and everything, then I can be like, well, I kind of need a breather. So I'm going to go back to this other one that I know has no tension whatsoever, has, enough to just be like, hey, this is a good book. This is fun. Let's just have this for a minute.
And I think in times like right now, where it's especially, you can see it, like I'm in Canada and it's not quite as bad here, although it could get here, but definitely like where you are in the States with like the fuckery that's going on at a legislative level. And we're seeing it in other countries around the world too. Like there's a lot to feel despair about. And I find that reading these books can be an act of resistance, and it's that thing that lets you feel hope in these times when it's hard to feel hope. So I thought, let's bring our favorite recommendations, or some of our favorite recommendations, to other people who might need some books to uplift them and take them out of whether it's problems in their daily life or it's just hard to turn on the news anymore.
Exactly. I totally feel you on that one. Yes.
So I would like to start actually with the book that inspired this particular podcast episode, which is Marriage of Unconvenience by Chelsea M. Cameron. And I'm going to read the blurb for it. I'm actually going to use the official blurb because it's pretty good. Actually, I'm going to use the official blurbs for all of them because they're pretty good this time. So this one is, Lauren Lowe Bowman is in a bit of a pickle. She needs money like ASAP. She lost her job, the rent is due, and her car needs repairs. Problem is, the inheritance left to her by her old-fashioned granny has one stipulation before she can collect. She has to be married. Let's just say suitors of any gender are not knocking down her door. And then Kara Sims, her best friend from childhood that she's recently reconnected with, pours her heart out and confesses that she needs money to pay for grad school. Lowe has a completely brilliant idea. They should get hitched. Not married, like fake married. All they have to do is play the part for the lawyers, get the money, and then get the marriage annulled. Easy as hell. Well, it starts out that way, but being fake married feels a lot like being real married, and Lowe is flipping out. She can't be falling for her best friend, can she? This book is so freaking cute, Anna.
It sounds cute. It really does.
So cute. Oh my God. I have my review open, and I actually said at the beginning, reading it is like eating an amazing cupcake because it's super sweet and fills you up, but with feels and not cake.
And it's also that whole trope of like, friends, that they were friends first and they've known each other forever, and then they start realizing, oh wait, maybe I like them more than a friend now, So those are always the sweetest ones to me, because they're just like, do they feel the same way? And is this just the real thing, or is this just the whole charade? What's going on? And you have all these like really cool little questions that come up and everything, and then it just gets to the best endings ever in those. Yeah. Always.
Oh my God, it's so good. And the funny thing is, as I was reading it, it was kind of, again, one of those weeks where I just wanted to hide from the world. And then I got to the end, and I got to the acknowledgments, and she actually said, In this time of turmoil and terror, writing fluff feels like an act of resistance. I want to give you a place where you can relax and enjoy yourself for a little while, a world where everything turns out okay in the end and there's lots of flirting and kissing. And it's exactly that. It's so perfectly that. This book, like, if reading is self-care for you, you cannot find a better self-care than this book, because Kara and Lo are so sweet. They're very funny. There's even, like, Kara's a total nerd about her spreadsheets, and Lo likes to tease her about it, but even the way she's doing it, you can tell that Lo loves the way Kara's obsessed with spreadsheets. Like, it's just, everything about this book is cute. It's
Aww.
just super sweet. It's lovely. Like, it just, I can't, if I was doing a list of one, this would be my list of one.
Well, you can't do a list of one. You got to give multiple, unfortunately.
It's true. It's true. Then it's not a list.
But it doesn't count as a list if it's just one, unfortunately.
That's true.
That's just how the definition works. But that is a definite number one good place to start with, like, if you're just looking for really fluffy, no stress whatsoever stories, this is a good one to have.
Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome.
So, what is your first book?
Well, my first book is honestly the first book I ever read by this author, and it just made me want to read everything else. It's Taste by Kris Bryant. Oh yeah, you know where I'm going with this.
I'm a fan of this book.
This is the book that I have both an electronic copy and a physical copy, and whenever I finish like a book that might just be a little too heavy for me, I look over my bookshelf and I see it's there. I'm like, I want to go and read my favorite parts in this. That's what I want to do, just to kind of level my brain back to, like, even Steven on what's going on. So. And
it's so good in audio too. So if you are an audiobook kind of person, Brittany Pope reads it and she crushes it.
I'm not an audiobook person, but I have a feeling I need to listen to this one in audiobook, because I feel like I already have, like, the characters' voices in my head, but it wouldn't hurt to hear that actually come to fruition in a lot of ways with this. So, but I'm going to read the blurb that came with the book, which wasn't too far from what yours was for TLR either, but I kind of like that one a little bit better. No offense or anything there. Okay.
It's okay. We're still friends.
All right, good. I'm glad we're still friends. All right. The blurb is, determined to fulfill her dream of becoming a chef and winning a coveted scholarship to study cooking in Italy, Kai Blake rushes in late to the first class of her final semester at Kirkwood Culinary Academy and is stopped in her tracks by Taryn Ellis, the school's newest instructor. A beautiful and accomplished chef, Taryn has walked away from her promising career in the city's top restaurant to devote her life to her 5-year-old daughter. Kai and Taryn try their best to resist the urge to give in to the undeniable chemistry between them, and when at last they begin a passionate affair that must be kept a secret, they are each convinced it's only a short-term fling. It's up to both Kai and Taryn to decide whether they have found something genuine or whether the taste of romance they've had is truly enough. First of all, I love the names of these characters. They're just so unique and so fun. And Kris, I'm hoping that I actually said them right, because there's what you hear in your head and there's what is actually, what the author intended. So I don't think I'm too far off on that. But I like this one, because food was involved. And usually anything with food is very romantic in my case. But also the fact that Taryn has a 5-year-old daughter. And usually when kids are in there, that you can tell that the writer's intending this to be a little bit fluffy, because kids bring out the softer side of people in a lot of ways. My cat's with me, by the way. Just she always seems to know when I'm on a computer, and it's just like, hey, But this was just really, it was a nice slow burn is what it was, because you can tell Kai has an attraction to Taryn right away. I think part of it starts out as, hero attraction, because she's very aware of her, skills and her talent and her celebrity in the kitchen, but she also realizes it is more of a physical attraction and that I would love to be with this woman. And I think the more they get to know each other, I love watching them outside the culinary school, because it allows them to really have those moments that are just them and them getting to know each other on that more personable level. And the fact that, Kai is able to get to know more about Taryn's daughter and everything, who's the cutest little thing I have ever seen in my life, honestly. And I think the only really big problem that they have standing between them is the age thing. It's like Taryn's a little bit older, so it's kind of an age gap romance, but that's also another thing that drew me to it. It's like, I love seeing these age gaps where it's like women who are older thinking, well, why would this younger woman want anything to do with me? But it turns out it's like, they want you for a reason. It's like, it's not just, it's not just the hero worship. It's not just, oh, well, this is a short-term thing. It's like, Kai has genuine feelings, and I love seeing those come out. And what's even better, it comes out through her food, through her cooking. The passion she has for Taryn comes out through that. And it's just a really sweet, funny, it'll make you hungry. When you read a lot of these, it really will. And you're just like, man, why can't I have that now, and everything. But I love the story. And Kris has always said that she doesn't like giving her characters conflict. And I think this is one of her stories where her characters have the least amount of conflict. And I love that. So the fact that she really kind of holds true to that, or she makes conflict that's easily resolved, I guess is the best way to put it. So this was her first book that I ever read, and I was just like, I want to read everything by her now and everything. So, and I've gotten the rest of the Sensory series because of it as well. But this whole thing is just great from beginning to end. I love it. Totally.
It's so good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I second all that. I don't even think there's anything I can really meaningfully add to it. Like, I think you just covered it all really well. So my next book is actually a book that I finished reading last night. I may have bumped a different book.
Oh.
To add it to the list, because I was like, this has to go. Right. So I apologize to the book that got bumped. I'm not going to say what it is. We'll just put that little vibe out in the universe. So this one's called Mrs. Martin's Incomparable Adventure by Courtney Milan. And the blurb is, Mrs. Bertress Martin, a widow some 73 years young, has kept her youthful-ish appearance with the most powerful of home remedies, daily doses of spite, regular baths in man tears, and refusing to give so much as a single damn about her terrible nephew. Then proper, correct Miss Violetta Beauchamp, a sprightly young thing of 69, crashes into her life. The terrible nephew is living in her rooming house, and Violetta wants him gone. Mrs. Martin isn't about to start giving damns, not even for someone as intriguing as Miss Violetta, but she hatches another plan, to make her nephew sorry, to make Miss Violetta smile, and have the finest adventure of all time. If she makes terrible men angry and wins the hand of a lovely lady in the process, those are just added bonuses.
Ooh.
So, yeah, this is a fluffy romance with two elderly women in a Victorian romance, and it is so much fun. This is not going to be one of those like super accurate historical romances.
No.
And it feels, often some of the things you're saying feels a little like things people would say today. But like, as a woman on the internet who is seeing the terrible things men are doing all the time, reading this book was so delicious. It's so good. So all the tension, actually, like there's not really any tension between Violetta and Bertress. It's really to do with what are they going to do about this terrible nephew? Because he is basically waiting for his aunt to die so he can get all of her money. Because she is super crazy wealthy. And in fact, he wants her to just like hand the money over now. And He really is awful. There's no, like, as she says in her author's note, she says, sometimes I write villains who are subtle and nuanced. This is not one of those times. The terrible nephew is terrible and terrible things happen to him. Sometimes villains really are bad and wrong. And sometimes we want them to suffer a lot of consequences. So this book is like a revenge romp. And it is hilarious. I was laughing so hard yesterday when I was reading that I was weeping. I was having to wipe the tears out of my eyes so I could see. And my poor husband was like, what's going on? I was like, I can't even explain. If I try to explain this, it's going to sound like the dumbest thing, but I promise it's hilarious. Because there are these like information reveals as they're torturing this nephew, where you kind of think something is happening and then you realize exactly what's happening, and it's even funnier than what you thought was happening. It was insane. Gosh. But then it would move to these really beautiful, poignant moments that I didn't expect because I was just laughing so hard I was almost gasping. And like they're having a picnic out by this tree, and it's an old tree, and Violetta starts kind of talking about how, you know, trees are allowed to be beautiful as they age. Basically, anything is allowed to be beautiful as they age except women. And she wasn't beautiful in the first place. And she feels like nobody sees her as having any value because she has no money and she's almost 70. And she's in this position in her life where she has to worry about how she's going to live. And it's really like moving back and forth between kind of those beautiful moments as they really see each other for who they are and how they kind of like fall for each other while they're doing these like completely off the wall things to this stupid, awful nephew it was really good. It worked really well for me. It was like exactly the healing balm that I needed. We are recording this at the very beginning of June. And this episode will probably go up sometime in July or August, but just for context for other people. So, I mean, we've very recently been seeing all of the abortion ban stuff going up across the states. I have a new premier in Alberta who has a terrible record for things to do with LGBTQ rights and abortion and all these things. And so I've been pretty angry recently, and reading this book and just getting to laugh like that was so cathartic. And then it was funny because I went through the author's note, and she says, similar to what Chelsea Cameron says, one problem with writing happy endings in a world that seems increasingly irrational is that it is harder than ever to convince myself that they are realistic. But I nonetheless continue to do so. They haven't managed to win, not in the long term. They have all the money and all the power, and still here we are. Happiness is not just an act of optimism, it is an act of defiance.
Right. No, yeah, that's very true to this day. And I mean, you were talking about those little, points where they're like doing these, things to this nephew, and it's like you get those internal like things between each character where it's just like, and those are my favorite parts. It's like they have these internal revelations and realizations that, oh wait, I like this person more, than just a friend. And what we're doing to this person is, fun and cool, but I want them to stick around after we finish this, so those are always the best moments to me and stuff like that. So, and I think that's what really makes good fluff as well, is where it's like you have those characters that are just like, wow, I totally love this person, and how do I get them to stay without scaring them off and everything like that? And then in the end, it all just works out. But still, it's just the journey for fluff to me is just as much fun as when you finally get to that destination. Mm-hmm. Really, it is. It always is. So.
It's so good. And I was happy to see there is a sex scene in the book. Like, yeah, they're both seniors, but I mean, it's not like as you age, sexual desire goes away entirely for everybody. So I thought it was lovely. It's not like this book is not erotica, so
this is not like Megan O'Brien erotica.
It is not. No. It is not. But it was really like it was perfect to the rest of the book, and it made me really happy to see it. So yeah, if you haven't read this one, highly recommend, especially if you want to laugh your pants off and feel some feelings.
There you go. Feeling feelings is always good.
Yeah.
You're listening to The Lesbian Talk Show. TheLesbianTalkShow.com, your hub of podcast information.
Well, my second one, it's almost another foodie one. By the title, you would think it would be. It's called Add Romance and Mix by Shannon and M. Harris. I actually picked this one up at a booth at Lexicon because the blurb on the back of the book just kind of intrigued me, and I was like, okay, I'll pick this up. And I actually got more than I bargained for with this. It was funny, it was witty, and in a lot of ways I kind of, associated with the protagonist in this because I'm very awkward around girls myself. So it's like if I meet a girl I like, I'm either going to do the typical elementary school thing and either ignore her or accidentally treat her badly, or just, go overboard in the affection. I'm kind of one or the other. There really is no balance between me. I'm sorry. But this one was just so much fun to read just because I can relate to a lot of it, and it's set in a small town. It's another small town romance as well, but I'll give you guys the blurb that I wrote for my review, if anything. So, Briley Anderson hasn't had a serious relationship for a while. Instead, she spends her time flipping houses and baking treats for all of her neighbors. Well, almost all of her neighbors. Leah Daniels is new to the neighborhood and brings out Briley's competitive nature as well as her worst attributes. While Leah believes Briley doesn't like her, she soon discovers that it's just the opposite. Briley is extremely attracted to her. With the help of her sister Kat, Briley sets out to win Leah's heart in spite of her protests. Through laughter, love, geekiness, and baked goods, Briley and Leah will need to figure out if they created a lasting relationship and if the risk is worth the ultimate reward. So yeah, I mean, this is just a fun, hilarious... It kind of reminds me of Robin Alexander's writing a little bit, where she's got a little bit of wittiness in there with her secondary characters. But in this case, the secondary characters are the primary ones. Briley is first takes notice of Leah's garden because it's just so well done. And of course, because she's, doing flipping houses and she's doing all this other stuff, she kind of takes to offense that there's somebody in the neighborhood better than her. But then she sees Leah and she's like, oh my God, she's so attractive. And then, of course, it just brings out the worst in her. It's like she makes baked goods for everybody, but Leah's not on that list, apparently. And Leah also has a teenage boy as well, a teenage son that Briley gets along with, but she doesn't really get along with Leah. So what makes it funny is when Briley's sister Kat actually steps in and is like, dude, you got to apologize. You got to go over there. And it's just that little reluctant. She's like a child again, being caught, doing something wrong. Her sister takes her over there and she just pushes Briley forward. And Briley's like, sorry, I didn't do this, or sorry about this, sorry about that. And it's just a funny little, scene where it's just like, okay, this is going to be the start of their relationship. And there's actually a point later on where Briley goes over and she actually has a real talk with Leah. And she explains to Leah, it's like, the reason I've been so mean to you is because I actually like you. And Leah's like, wait, what? That makes no sense. And it's just kind of funny. And of course, Leah's just like, well, I really don't want a relationship. I wouldn't mind a friendship and everything. And so they do start, actually becoming friends. And so it's that little whole development thing. Like, you start as friends, and then Harris actually tells a lot of this from Briley's point of view. I kind of wish I had gotten, Leah's perspective as she's starting to realize, hey, I do have feelings for this woman and everything. But it was still, just a lot of fluff, a lot of sweetness. Both of them are very much into geekiness. They go to cons, they dress up all together. That was a nice little twist that I thought, because I was like, I just bought this at a con, so I think that makes sense now, But it's just great seeing, this little town where everybody gets along, everybody's rooting for them. That's what made it really fun, was that you had a small town where most people think small town, middle America, nobody's going to, really be for a same-sex relationship all that much. I mean, I know friends that are still, struggling with it, that live in the Midwest. But in this case, it wasn't an issue. It's like everybody knew Briley because she grew up in that town. Everybody was accepting of Leah and her son and everything. So it was just like, it was great to see that aspect too. Like, they didn't have to deal with, bigotry all that much in this place that they had called home. So that also made it very appealing to me as well.
This book sounds like a lot of fun, and I definitely need to pick it up.
Oh yeah, it totally is a lot of fun. I mean, it's definitely one of those you could probably finish it in a day just because it's such an easy read. And that's the only downside I find with fluff is, like, I find them so easy to read that I finish them way too quickly, and I'm just like, wait, I want to go back and read some more.
I know. What if this was like a 500-page fluffy book?
Exactly. So.
I suppose we do kind of have that, though, with All That Matters by Susan X. Maher, which is not on my list, but right. that one's pretty fluffy, I think.
It has a little bit of fluff. Stuff. Yeah, I mean, it deals with, an ex-husband type deal. Yeah. He causes some drama a little bit. There's not really the will they or won't they. There's not that kind of, it's like once they get together, like they're together. Right, exactly. I unfortunately had to no offense, Susan, it was just way too long for me. That I got to a point where I was just like, okay, they're together. What else is there? You know?
I think the thing that I liked with that one is that it's a friends to lovers. I'm totally digressing. Oh my God. No, anyway, that's fine. It's fine. Yeah. But it's a friends to lovers where we actually see when they first meet. So we see the whole friendship develop and like it's truly just friendship.
Right.
And then the transition. And then, yeah, we get to see them until they're really well established rather than like a lot of romances, they end at the I love you. And maybe you get an epilogue that indicates like, yes, there's definitely a happily ever after here. But like, I liked that with this one, there's no question about whether they were actually together forever. Like they are definitely a family forever.
Yes, exactly. I kind of figured that. Yeah, it is long. It's like, again, Susan, no offense if you're listening to this, I did start skimming at a certain point because I was just like, okay, once they got together, you know, I kind of was trying to find the high points. It's like, how does everybody else interact with this? And then I did see that they got their happy ending and everything because I was just like, you know, it's like, I love getting to the happy ending part, but it's like, once you get to that point where you realize, especially in a book this long, there's not a lot of drama going to be happening as well. It's like, okay, we can, it's like sometimes, in some ways, you know, fluff is too short, and in a lot of ways, fluff can be too long. In that regard. And it's like, no offense against Susan, I've read a bunch of her stuff. I love a lot of her stuff and everything. It was just in that specific case.
I mean, not every book is going to hit every person the same way.
Right,
too. And
exactly.
I'm sure she knows that too. So
yeah, I think I heard that at GCLS last year. It's like Susan, you write such long stories, and she's like, "What? That's a problem?" It's like, no, it's not a problem. You know, it's just, you know, it's like, it does make it hard to like get through it if you're like having a busy day or a busy week or something like that, and you take it on and you're just like, well, I want to read, but I can't read, you know, and I'm only like 10% into this book and you're like 100 pages in or something like that.
Yeah. I find that I usually read 1 to 2 books a week, and Susan X Ma, her book weeks are definitely like 1 book that week.
Yeah. I feel the same way with MJ Duncan a little bit too, because she does get a lot of detail into her books as well. I think the shortest I've read of hers was Veritas. I think that was the shortest book I've read of hers, but everything else was like, you know, definitely got to carve out some time in a week type deal and everything to read her stuff. But,
you really do.
Yeah.
So my last book is one that we are both fond of, and it is In Her Court by Tamsen Parker.
Oh, yeah. You turned me on to that one, and I am so happy you did when you gave me that. I was just like, holy cow, you know. That was such a great one.
This time, actually, I changed my mind. I know I said at the beginning I was going to read the official blurb, but I'm going to read mine. Because I changed my mind, and I can.
Go ahead. Yeah.
That's right. So, Willa's summer break seriously sucks. She should be out doing field work after finishing the first year of her geology PhD, but a collapse at the cavern she was scheduled to work in means she's stuck with nothing to do. When her older brother Nate breaks his leg and asks her to take his spot for the rest of the summer as a tennis instructor at an adult sleepaway camp, it's a no-brainer. Except his cabin roommate is his best friend, Evangeline Van Thompson, aka Willa's childhood crush, leaving Willa equal parts excited and nervous. After a painful first year as a computational biophysics professor, Van was looking forward to putting the tenure track out of her mind while spending the summer with her best friend as the IT manager for Camp Firefly Falls. The last thing she needs is for Nate to leave and stick her with keeping an eye on his little sister. When Willa shows up, though, Van can't deny how grown-up and gorgeous Willa is. Even worse, Willa's smart, driven, and hard-working, which hits all of Van's attraction buttons and makes the introverted Van clam up almost completely. It's sure to be the most awkward summer ever until the camp owners throw Van and Willa together to plan activities for the camp's last week. Who knew a little 80s nostalgia could be just the ticket to getting them talking and so much more.
Oh, yeah.
This book.
Steaminess ensues. Let's just say that right there.
So much. So this is actually a book that didn't come in through the Lesbian Review. I think I picked it up because I saw somebody promoting it on Twitter, or it was on some like sale list or something like that. I don't know. But I was taking a break from my review list. It's probably a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think it was a couple years.
Yeah. So I was taking a break from my review list. I was like, I'll try this. I don't know. It sounds cute. And I was like, whoa, it's cuter than I thought it would be. Oh my God, what is going on? I could not even handle it. Van is adorable. She is the ultimate geek girl, I think, out of any of the ones I've come across. She worships Holtzman from the new Ghostbusters movie. And I mean, who can blame her? And she even brought her Star Wars and Wonder Woman collectibles with her to the camp. Like, come on.
I know, but it kind of has the same feel as, like, you know, with Adam Romance and Mix, where it's like, Willa thinks that Van just doesn't like her, you know, but really she's, like, very attracted to her.
Yes.
And she's just like, I don't know what to do with this information. I knew her when she was a child, and now she's this full-grown, amazing, gorgeous woman. What do I do, you know?
Oh, shit, my best friend's gonna murder me if I touch his little sister.
Yeah, that too. There's that aspect as well. So I was like, oh, man, I am so screwed, you know?
Well, and I loved, because at first, like, she does totally underestimate Willa, because she's gorgeous, tall, blonde, athletic, all these things. And Willa's used to people seeing that first. And when, like, when Van finally figures out that, like, oh no, Willa's really smart and really competent and, like, I don't know, have you ever heard the phrase about, like, competence porn? How for some people competence is super sexy.
Smart is sexy, yeah.
Yeah, and I just love that. And so then when they really, like, the chemistry builds kind of slowly between them, and then it just explodes. And it's so good. And this is another one that is available in audio. Jill Smith is the narrator. I think I'm trying to think. It might be the last podcast I recorded. I talked about her too. I have a massive voice crush on Jill Smith and her narration. She's perfect for this. Like, she's absolutely perfect. I highly recommend, even if you're not usually into audiobooks, like, it's one that I totally recommend because it's so freaking good.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I was just like, when I found out that she was going to be signing that book at the Rip Bodice down in Culver City, I was just like, I'm getting a copy. I don't care what I have to do. It's going to be mine. You know?
I know. So. I managed to snag, when I was there earlier this year, they still had one signed copy left of this book, and I picked it up, and now it is mine, and it is next to me.
There you go.
Somewhere in that pile of books.
Yeah, I love that story, and, you know, I think you recommended it to me because you said it was a sports thing, and there is a tennis thing in there, but I feel like it concentrates more on their relationship, which I loved, you know, and everything. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't like, she tricked me, it's not really sports, you know, or anything like that. I just remember reading it as like, oh, there is tennis in here. Okay, I don't care about that. I want to read more about, you know, their interactions and what's going on, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's possible to go into this book mad and stay mad. Like, it's the perfect antidote to a bad day. So if you haven't read it, definitely pick this one up because it's just wonderful.
Yeah, and the steamy sex scenes don't hurt either.
They really don't.
No, they really don't. None whatsoever. Okay. All right, my last one is actually one that I just finished a week ago, and it's the latest by MJ Duncan called Pas de Deux. For all of you who speak French and who know ballet, if I totally butchered that, I totally apologize. I'm a Southern girl, and this is not my language at all. I was so happy when I saw she was writing this book, not only because it's Duncan and I just love everything she writes, but it's actually a continuation of an already existing character. It's Mallory Collingswood's story. Now, if for all of you out there who've read Symphony in Blue, you know that Mallory was the partner of Gwen, who wasn't really very visible in Symphony in Blue because she was off she was auditioning, she was, you know, practicing 24/7 to get a position as the leader of the London Symphony Orchestra. And of course, you know, because of that, she wasn't really there a lot. And for those of you who've read Symphony in Blue, you kind of know what happened there. For those of you who have not, go and read that book, please, because it's just as amazing as this one, which is the continuation. But we get Mallory's story this time. And again, I was so giddy when I saw that she was writing this, and I was just like, I want a copy, I want a copy, I want a copy, like right away. I think as soon as it released on Amazon, I bought it. I was just like, I don't care, I'm buying this, just because I was so ready for it, and it did not disappoint in any way, shape, or form. So, but I want to read the blurb right now. Mallory Collingswood's career is perfectly on track as she takes to the role of leader of the London Symphony Orchestra like it was her birthright. However, since leaving Los Angeles and breaking up with her partner Gwen, her personal life has taken a major hit. She's convinced she doesn't need the love of a partner and is determined to put her sole focus on music and enjoy her second year at the London Symphony Orchestra. When she's approached to do a collaboration with the Royal Ballet, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that only a fool would turn down. Taking on the role will mean working harder than she ever has in her life and performing in a way she never has alongside the Royal Ballet's brightest star, Addison Lee. Individually, they are opposites in almost every way, but together they form a perfect pair. For the first time since leaving Los Angeles, Mallory wonders what it would be like to love and be loved again. Is Mallory ready to put her heart on the line and let Addison in? Or will their chemistry be strictly regulated to their stage performance only? I was just so happy. Again, I'm going to say that over and over again. So happy that this story was written, because I think I'm one of the few people that when I read Symphony in Blue, I never saw Mallory as a bad guy. I never saw her as an antagonist. I just saw her as a very driven, very focused woman who loved her craft, who wanted this job more than anything. And like many of us, when we get very focused and very determined on one specific point in our lives, everything just fades away, including the relationships. And even in this one, Mallory will say herself she made mistakes with Gwen. And that's honestly what's been a big part of her holding herself back. And then she meets this beautiful, spunky, 24-year-old woman in a coffee shop right across the street from the Symphony Hall. And they just start clicking. They start talking. They start forming this friendship. And then she gets the job with the Royal Ballet. And she realizes the girl she's been talking to in the coffee shop is going to be her partner on stage doing this specific show. And it's just great to watch their chemistry form. Like, great to see Mallory come out of her shell. And you get to see the true Mallory that I feel everybody kind of missed out on in Symphony in Blue. And she's very caring. She's very loving. She has her friends that love her and support her. She has her career that's very important to her. But when she's starting to get to know Addison and starts having more deeper feelings for her, she starts realizing that the mistakes she made with Gwen, she does not want to make with Addison, whether it goes anywhere or not. So it's just really fun to watch her become this great, loving person. And I enjoyed it so immensely. And again, it's Duncan. You know there's not going to be a lot of, angst or drama going on. There really wasn't, that much. Her and Addison pretty much clicked right away over coffee. And then when they get on stage together, oh my God, it's just so magical the way that Duncan describes it. And you're just like, oh my God, just let them sleep together, please. Please let them sleep together. And I feel like in this one, it takes a little longer for Duncan to get together, which actually I didn't mind. I was just like, I loved watching this relationship develop from just being friends to being, co-dancers on stage to actually finally making that final step and being lovers and everything. And it was just amazing. I loved it in every way for that purpose.
So were Mallory and Gwen, I almost said Glenn, oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
were Mallory and Gwen side characters in Symphony in Blue?
Gwen was the principal character. She was the protagonist in there. And we actually see everything in Symphony in Blue from Gwen's point of view. And I think actually Symphony in Blue was the first real story where Duncan actually put a lot of, angst in there, because she has it where Gwen has a one-night stand with a woman while she's away. And when she gets back, she wants to tell Mallory because Gwen's just a good person like that. And then Mallory drops this bomb on her. She's like, I have a chance to get the lead role in the London Symphony Orchestra, and I need to practice day and night, to do this, to blah, blah, blah. And Gwen's just like, okay, I should tell her this, but she knows as a musician, anything you say to change their routine at this point is going to really affect them when she goes for this. I totally understand that as a musician myself. You know, it's like, I remember having my routines. I mean, you talk to even like athletes or anybody else, they have routines that help them stay in the game, stay focused, do what they need to do. Anything you do to disrupt that could hinder them in their performance later on. And so with Symphony and Blue, Gwen actually runs into Dana again, and she tells Dana, I'm in a relationship. What happened, you know, on the island and everything should not have happened. Dana's obviously pissed because she doesn't like being the other woman. But then they meet up again later, and Dana's like, look, you're one of the few people in my life that I actually like, you know, because she doesn't, there's just things, you know, I won't give away. People need to read the story, but they decide to form a friendship. But as their friendship grows, Gwen and Mallory start drifting further and further apart because Mallory's off rehearsing, trying to get ready for this audition, and she's just not there. And again, it's one of those things where I understand what Mallory was doing, because anybody in that position, anybody in this field understands that when you're going for specific things, you have to have your focus on that. And again, it's one of those, your pinpoint focus allows you to focus on that and not much else, including your relationships. But the way that Duncan did the sequel with Mallory's story, it allows Mallory to see what her faults were, make sure she doesn't make those same mistakes again with Addison. It allows her to have some closure with what happened with Gwen, which I think is great, you know, because Gwen's not at fault entirely. Mallory's not at fault entirely. And again, it just goes to show there are two sides to every story with this, and Duncan actually gives us both sides in two separate stories, which I think is amazing. But yeah, there's really not any angst between Mallory and Addison. There's like a brief brought up of their age difference, because Mallory, I think, is established as at 39 years old. Addison's 24, so there's a 15-year age gap. But even Mallory's just like, you know, it's not that big of an issue. By the time they get together, she's like, it's not really come up, you know. So I really was so happy, and yeah, there we go.
And can you read Pas de Deux without having read Symphony and Blue? Like, can it actually stand alone?
It can stand alone. I mean, we've all read stories where it's like you see a major character after a breakup, and you don't really know exactly what happened in the details of that breakup, you know, and that's okay. You know, we've bought that all the time. I think the only thing that if anything, it might intrigue people to go back and read Symphony and Blue, to find out, okay, what did happen? What caused this breakup and everything like that? Because it's like there are points, cause there's a point where Mallory actually does tell Addison what happened with Gwen. And Addison's like totally coming to Mallory's defense, saying, you know, she was a bitch for doing that to you. But Mallory's just like, no, you don't understand. She did what she thought was right, because she knew this was my dream job and she didn't want to interfere. So Mallory herself doesn't really blame Gwen for what happened. So I think it's just a really good, you know, Symphony and Blue is Gwen's side, and then Pas de Deux is a continuation showing Mallory's, you know, acceptance of what happened, her healing process, and her ability to continue on in love again. So.
That sounds very good.
It is very good. I mean, I almost want to read it again, but I'm just like, yeah, that'll take a little time. Again, as well.
So those are all the stories we brought, but I feel like it would be remiss if we didn't give an honorable mention to pretty much everything I've ever read by Robin Alexander.
Oh yeah, we got to. Definitely.
So again, if you're just looking for books to kind of get away from it all and laugh and smile and have a nice time, I can recommend Just Jory, The Fall, Blissfully Blindsided, Pitifully Ugly, Always Alex, and Temporary Girl. Those are all awesome places to start.
Summer of Our Discontent was a good one too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I would say don't read Just Jory and Always Alex back to back.
No.
Or maybe any of them. Don't read them back to back, because the tone is often very similar.
Right.
Even though they're different stories, different circumstances. Maybe don't read them back to back, but definitely pick them up when you're having a dark moment, because they're just lovely.
Oh yeah, totally love those.
that is all for this episode. Thank you so much, Anna, for joining me.
I'm glad to be here. This was so much fun.
So, I'm Tara, and you've been listening to Les Do Books. Remember to email me at tara@thelesbianreview.com with your questions or comments. If you've enjoyed this episode, please check out the show notes where you'll find a Patreon link for The Lesbian Talk Show, or visit patreon.com/thelesbiantalkshow. Patrons get exclusive content that no one else does, like bonus audio from other shows, author interviews, and all kinds of cool stuff. Don't forget to join our Facebook group, The Lesbian Review Book Club, so you can talk to us about anything that you're reading and loving. To find this and many other great shows, all you need to do is search for The Lesbian Talk Show on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, or Spotify.